On August 19th, 2015, a beloved television icon stepped onto the red carpet for the Hand of God premiere, alongside her fiancé. Fans witnessed a shocking transformation. Her face appeared significantly swollen, making her signature blue eyes look noticeably smaller. Distinct marks rested on the sides of her nose, adding to a highly unusual, unfamiliar appearance. What exactly drove a globally adored megastar into the nightmare of becoming someone many fans struggled to recognize? Before the severe swelling and the harsh reality of cosmetic interventions took over, Courteney Cox possessed a completely untouched, magnetic presence that captivated an entire generation. Long before the immense pressure of the industry altered her physical features, she perfectly defined the pure, rustic aesthetic of late 1980s American pop culture. Her massive industry breakthrough happened in 1984 and instantly became a legendary television moment. Millions of viewers watched a fresh-faced, wildly energetic young woman pulled directly onto the stage in Bruce Springsteen's popular Dancing in the Dark music video. She was the ultimate girl next door. Fans immediately connected with her genuine smile, her bright enthusiasm, and her unforced charm. There was zero artificial enhancement present on her face. She was simply a vibrant teenager with short, bouncy hair, radiating infectious joy. This undeniable natural appeal quickly propelled her into mainstream acting. Between 1987 and 1989, she secured a prominent role as Lauren Miller on the successful sitcom Family Ties, acting directly alongside some of the biggest stars of the decade. Stepping onto that set, she brought a remarkably soft, relatable beauty into the living rooms of millions of viewers every single week. Audiences adored her unaltered facial structure. She had striking, clear blue eyes, a naturally balanced jawline, and expressive brows that moved freely with every emotion. Her facial muscles were animated, capable of conveying deep romantic tension or sharp comedic timing with just a subtle, natural shift. During this specific era, the entertainment industry heavily favored this type of grounded, down-to-earth aesthetic. She stood out precisely because she lacked the manufactured, unapproachable traits of traditional high-fashion models. Instead, she represented a deeply authentic, very human standard of beauty. Women across the country admired her bouncy, voluminous, curly hairstyles, and they envied her clear, fresh skin. Every time she stepped in front of a camera for an interview, her genuine warmth and vibrant personality took center stage. There was a profound innocence in her expressions, a lack of the paralyzing self-doubt that often plagues modern celebrities. This late 80s timeframe firmly established her as a universally beloved household staple. The public felt a deep, almost protective affection for her character. She navigated her early 20s under an immense spotlight, yet she fully retained the unblemished essence of her youth. Her features told a story of genuine happiness, and the natural passage of time was not yet a terrifying concept she felt forced to battle. The entire world fell in love with this pristine version of her identity. No one could have predicted that this expressive, flawless canvas would eventually become a tragic struggle. This beautiful era remains a deeply nostalgic reminder of her original, true self. By 1994, her career skyrocketed into an entirely different stratosphere. She landed the role of Monica Geller on a brand new sitcom called Friends. Almost overnight, the show became a global phenomenon. It hijacked Western pop culture, defining how an entire generation across the United States and Europe dressed, spoke, drank coffee, and dated. At the center of this media spotlight was her sharp, trendy aesthetic. During this specific decade, stretching from 1994 to 2004, her face became the gold standard for television beauty. She traded the bouncy 80s curls for sleek, shoulder-length straight hair, cementing a sophisticated style. Her striking blue eyes were fiercely expressive, perfectly delivering the neurotic, energetic comedy that made her character so universally beloved. She was no longer just a relatable girl next door. She was a certified global superstar. Millions of women rushed to salons demanding her exact haircut. Every outfit she wore on screen instantly sold out in stores. She possessed an undeniable, magnetic screen presence that commanded attention the second she walked into a scene. The financial reality of this success was staggering. As the show dominated the network ratings year after year, the cast negotiated historical, record-breaking contracts. By the final 2 seasons, she reached the pinnacle of the entertainment industry, earning an unprecedented $1 million for a single episode. She officially became one of the highest-paid actresses in television history. She had the money, the global adoration, and an undisputed permanent spot on the A-list. However, standing at the peak of worldwide fame creates a terrifying, invisible trap. When a television show is broadcast into tens of millions of homes every single week for 10 consecutive years, the audience memorizes every single centimeter of a star's face. The public essentially freezes them in time. They expect their favorite characters to remain eternally youthful, completely ignoring the truth of aging. The daily pressure to maintain that pristine million-dollar physical state was immense. The high-definition cameras were constantly rolling, relentlessly capturing every subtle shift, every new line, and every sign of physical exhaustion. She was trapped inside an unforgiving spotlight. The television industry demanded that she preserve the exact same youthful vitality she possessed on day one, even as a full decade slipped by. The massive paychecks and global fame brought unimaginable wealth, but they also established a cruel, impossible physical standard. She was silently forced into a suffocating corner, burdened with the expectation of staying perfectly young forever, while the entire world scrutinized her every move. That overwhelming television scrutiny seamlessly crossed over into the feature film world, introducing an entirely new level of public pressure. Her success allowed her to easily transition into major cinematic productions, expanding her global stardom. In 1996, she secured the iconic role of the sharp, ruthless journalist Gale Weathers in the blockbuster horror movie Scream. The project revolutionized the slasher genre and became an instant commercial triumph worldwide. However, the production of this definitive film did not just alter her professional trajectory, it fundamentally reshaped her personal life. On the set of the very first movie, she crossed paths with her co-star, David Arquette. The romantic connection between them was immediate and genuine, sparking a highly publicized relationship that dominated the entertainment news cycle. They officially married in 1999, creating a star-studded event that the media commercialized. During this specific era, the tabloid industry was rapidly developing a toxic obsession with the concept of the Hollywood power couple. Suddenly, Their private relationship was transformed into a profitable commodity, designed to generate massive sales for gossip magazines. Paparazzi pursued them, transforming their daily lives into a constant public spectacle. Every single joint appearance on the red carpet was dissected, and their domestic life became property of the public domain. Beneath the polished surface of their marriage, internal cracks quickly began to manifest. Navigating a real-world relationship inside the chaotic, unforgiving studio ecosystem is a grueling challenge. The inescapable necessity to project marital harmony to the outer world created a suffocating environment within their home. They were forced to maintain a flawless public status at all times, aware that any sign of domestic struggle would be weaponized against them by the press. This continuous performance slowly eroded their authentic connection, turning their private sanctuary into another high-stakes stage. The intense pressure was further magnified by her growing anxieties regarding the natural passage of time. She operated within a commercial system that cruelly equated an actress's professional worth with her physical youth. As she navigated her mid-30s alongside her younger husband, the fear of aging began to dictate her psychological state. She felt an overwhelming obligation to preserve the exact physical traits that built her legendary career, creating an internal panic that silently bled into her marriage. The relationship was no longer just a private union. It was burdened by the impossible standard of perpetual perfection. David was simultaneously dealing with his own intense professional pressures, and the compounding stress of the media glare slowly fractured their fragile foundation. The relentless scrutiny systematically hollowed out their communication, replacing genuine intimacy with a tense, guarded survival mechanism. They clung to each other tightly amidst the media storm, unaware that the toxic environment of the entertainment industry had already set a devastating trap. This early era of marital instability quietly established the dark baseline for her future decisions, proving that the constant demand to maintain a flawless facade will eventually destroy the very reality it seeks to preserve. The foundation of that marriage faced its ultimate test in 2004. After surviving years of intense public scrutiny, she welcomed her daughter, Coco. On the surface, this was the perfect triumph. Society expects new mothers, especially wealthy celebrities, to radiate pure, uninterrupted joy. The media sold a flawless, highly profitable narrative of a happy, growing family. However, the reality hidden behind her closed doors was entirely different and profoundly dark. She was struck by severe postpartum depression. This is a brutal, silent condition that dismantles a woman's mental state from the inside out. Millions of mothers across the globe suffer through this exact agony, but dealing with it under the harsh, unforgiving glare of the entertainment industry drastically amplifies the horror. She experienced crippling sadness, profound emotional isolation, and an overwhelming sense of emptiness during the exact timeline when the world demanded she be the happiest. She had to hide her internal collapse. Every single time she stepped outside her home, she was forced to project a bright, manufactured smile while her mind was actively breaking apart. This massive health struggle collided directly with a monumental career crossroad. During this exact same period, major television executives offered her the lead role of Susan Mayer in a brand new, highly anticipated series called Desperate Housewives. It was a guaranteed commercial hit. It was the perfect vehicle to maintain her status as a reigning television queen. But the physical exhaustion of her pregnancy, immediately followed by the heavy, suffocating weight of clinical depression, made it entirely impossible. She was physically and mentally incapable of taking on the grueling schedule of a lead actress. She was forced to decline the golden offer. She had to sit in silence and watch someone else take a role that quickly became a global sensation. Her severe health struggle directly stole a defining career opportunity. Desperate to maintain some form of control over her professional life while actively battling her own mind, she executed a strategic pivot. She and her husband officially founded their own company, Coquette Productions. This was not just a business decision, it was a survival mechanism. If she could not mentally handle the extreme demands of stepping in front of the camera for a major network, she would attempt to command the industry from behind the scenes. It was a desperate attempt to stay relevant, while secretly fighting an invisible war inside her own home. The public praised her business expansion, completely unaware of the agonizing depression that actually forced her to make that exact choice. Stepping back onto the set to reclaim her acting career proved far more brutal than she anticipated. The entertainment industry operates on ruthless financial metrics, and past television glory offers zero protection at the cinema box office. Returning to the big screen, she starred in the family superhero comedy movie Zoom. The project was a box office disappointment. Critics tore the film apart upon release, and paying audiences completely ignored it. The movie failed to recover its massive production budget, generating millions in financial losses. For an actress accustomed to breaking global viewership records every single week, this severe commercial rejection was a heavy, sobering blow. It sent a clear, cold message. The transition from beloved sitcom star to leading movie actress was heavily guarded, and the major studios were already starting to close the doors. Refusing to accept defeat, she returned to her roots in television, but this time on her own terms. Through her newly formed production company, she developed and starred in the dark, cynical drama series Dirt. Between 2007 and 2008, she portrayed Lucy Spiller, a ruthless, power-hungry tabloid editor. This specific role was a departure from her previous comedic persona. It was a gritty, intense performance, meticulously designed to prove her serious dramatic range and re-establish her dominance on the screen. She poured her maximum effort into the project, actively attempting to break free from the cheerful typecast that had defined her adult life. The series started to build a dedicated audience, successfully securing a second season. Then, an entirely uncontrollable disaster struck the industry. The 2008 Writers Guild of America strike completely paralyzed production. Sets went dark instantly across the entire city. The corporate studio system evaluated every single active television project, immediately cutting funding to anything that was not a guaranteed mega hit. Dirt was abruptly canceled without any proper conclusion. The television network killed the series mid-storyline, destroying years of intense preparation, personal investment, and grueling hard work. This cancellation was a profound personal defeat. She had successfully navigated her mental battles and fought her way back onto the screen, only to be crushed by a corporate labor dispute. The ecosystem demonstrated its indifference to individual passion or past legendary legacies. When a strike freezes the financial pipelines, Individual passion projects are discarded without hesitation. She found herself standing directly in the wreckage of 2 consecutive public failures, a box office disappointment, and an abruptly canceled television series, triggered a deep, paralyzing career crisis. The bright spotlight she once effortlessly commanded was actively retreating. The industry was sending a harsh, undeniably clear signal that prime opportunities were rapidly vanishing, forcing her into a state of professional limbo. The transition into her 40s was proving to be a highly unforgiving experience. The brutal reality of entering her 40s was merely the trigger for a much deeper, destructive psychological crisis. The root of her desperation extended far beyond a few canceled television projects. It originated directly from her own childhood. Long before she ever stepped onto a soundstage, she was raised inside a family dynamic that heavily prioritized and scrutinized physical appearance. From a very young age, she was surrounded by an environment where adults constantly judged others, based entirely on their external features. When a young girl is conditioned to believe that physical beauty is the most important thing a woman could offer, that specific insecurity becomes permanently wired into her psychology. It establishes a deeply toxic baseline for self-worth that is nearly impossible to break. Decades later, she carried that exact childhood trauma directly into the most appearance-obsessed industry on the planet. The studio system operates on a very specific, deeply ingrained structure of extreme ageism, a system deliberately weaponized against female talent. The Hollywood environment actively worships youth and punishes maturity. The absolute second an actress crosses the threshold of 40, the corporate studio system fundamentally shifts its treatment of her. The leading roles suddenly disappear. The highly lucrative scripts are instantly redirected to a younger generation. Major networks and casting directors actively communicate a clear, unforgiving message. Aging is an unacceptable offense. She found herself trapped directly between these 2 immense pressures. On one side, she battled the deeply rooted childhood fear of losing her primary source of value. On the other side, she faced a multi-billion-dollar industry that actively penalizes women simply for growing older naturally. This toxic combination created a perfect storm of panic. The intense pressure was never about simple vanity. It was a desperate, calculated survival mechanism. She firmly believed that if she allowed the natural aging process to occur, she would be completely erased from the very industry she had dedicated her entire adult life to building. The society that originally crowned her as a global beauty icon was now holding a ticking clock over her head, demanding she stop time entirely or face immediate professional decline. The intense fear of becoming irrelevant pushed her directly into a corner. The overwhelming anxiety of being replaced by younger talent convinced her that she had to artificially freeze her youth, setting the stage for a tragic, desperate battle against her own biology. This profound fear of career decline perfectly primed her for the subtle, insidious trap of modern cosmetic enhancement. Entering the early 2010s, the aesthetic industry in Beverly Hills rapidly evolved. The era of massive, highly invasive surgical facelifts was slowly being replaced by the aggressive marketing of non-surgical injectables. This transition created a dangerous illusion of safety. Clinics began heavily promoting dermal fillers as a simple, completely harmless method to pause the aging process. The psychological mechanism behind this specific type of aesthetic trap operates precisely like a line of dominoes. It rarely begins with a massive, noticeable transformation. A highly respected doctor gently suggests a minor, seemingly insignificant injection, perhaps just a small amount of filler to smooth out a slight shadow under the eyes, or to temporarily plump a thinning lip line. The initial results are often subtle and satisfying. The patient receives a temporary boost of confidence, genuinely believing they have successfully cheated the aging process without going under the knife. This initial success actively normalizes the procedure. However, the human face depends heavily on natural balance. Introducing a synthetic substance into one specific area inevitably alters the surrounding proportions. Once the first domino falls, a relentless chain reaction begins. The subtle addition of volume in the cheeks suddenly makes the jawline appear slightly less defined. To correct this new imbalance, the doctor recommends another injection lower down the face. The patient, now completely embedded in the process, readily agrees, chasing the original, impossible standard of perfection. This is where a devastating psychological phenomenon known as mirror blindness occurs. Because the physical changes are applied in tiny, gradual increments over several months or years, the patient's brain actively adjusts its baseline perception. She stared into the mirror every single day, entirely unable to recognize the cumulative distortion happening directly in front of her. The subtle alterations completely hijacked her internal reality. She genuinely believed she was simply maintaining her youthful, camera-ready appearance. The elite, highly commercialized clinics of Southern California thrive entirely on this specific vulnerability. The doctors actively validate the obsession, consistently reinforcing the narrative that more filler is always the correct solution to any physical insecurity. She was not a victim of a single catastrophic surgical error. She was slowly, methodically consumed by a system designed to exploit the fear of aging. She was completely unaware that her face was steadily transforming into a stiff, unnatural appearance, until close friends finally gathered the courage to intervene and break the paralyzing illusion. The damage was not inflicted overnight. It was meticulously built, injection by injection. The dangerous illusion of gradual injections eventually shattered in a highly public spectacle. All those years of subtle, overlapping procedures culminated on August 19, 2015. Stepping onto the red carpet for the Los Angeles premiere of the series Hand of God, the accumulated medical interventions were finally exposed under the harsh camera flashes. The media and fans were completely stunned by a physical presence that was immediately labeled as almost unrecognizable. This was not a simple case of aging. It was a physical manifestation of continuous cosmetic interventions. Breaking down the aesthetic aftermath reveals a startling reality. Her cheeks appeared noticeably puffy, a common visual side effect when aesthetic enhancements build up over time. Because the human facial structure only has a limited capacity for added volume, this massive artificial plumpness pushed aggressively upward. The unnatural pressure squeezed her signature, expressive eyes into tiny, restricted slits, completely altering the fundamental geometry of her upper face. The surface of her face presented another noticeable change. Her skin carried an intensely unnatural, highly reflective gloss. Some viewers speculated that ongoing skincare treatments may have contributed to this altered texture, leaving behind a tight, waxy sheen. However, the most physically jarring detail was located directly on the bridge of her nose. Many fans noticed distinct marks framing her features, adding to the overall unfamiliar effect. Observers theorized these were the lingering results of recent, unhealed interventions struggling against the weight of everyday sunglasses. This basic oversight left visible distinct indentations, temporarily stamped into the sides of her nose. For any woman terrified of cosmetic complications, this night represented the absolute worst-case scenario. A beloved television icon, possessing unlimited financial resources and access to elite clinics, was left with a stiff, distorted facial structure. The paralyzing fear of wrinkles had pushed her directly into a cycle she could no longer control. The expressive, deeply human features that originally captured the hearts of millions were completely buried under layers of unyielding synthetic material. The red carpet event was no longer a celebration of a premiere. It became a chilling exhibit of the brutal physical toll extracted by the relentless pursuit of eternal youth. That shocking appearance at the 2015 premiere instantly ignited a brutal, completely unforgiving wave of public commentary. Internet forums and tabloid outlets aggressively attacked her new appearance, subjecting her to relentless, cruel comparisons. Online trolls systematically mocked her features, frequently drawing deeply insulting parallels between her altered face and the famously rigid physical structure of other heavily altered celebrities. This was not casual critique. It was a highly organized campaign of public humiliation that completely ignored her immense legacy. Yet, the true devastation of this aesthetic nightmare extended far beyond the cruel comments on social media feeds. The heavy, continuous accumulation of synthetic material inside her facial tissue created a significant barrier for her actual profession. In the demanding world of dramatic acting, the face is a performer's absolute primary instrument. High-quality acting relies entirely on the fluid, unhindered movement of subtle micro-expressions. The tiny twitch of a brow, the slight trembling of a cheek muscle, and the natural movement around the eyes are the exact biological triggers that communicate genuine human grief, fear, or vulnerability to an audience. The cosmetic changes appeared to reduce some of the natural expressiveness audiences had once associated with her performances. This made it far more difficult to project the authentic, subtle emotions required on screen. When a high-definition camera captures a tight close-up, any synthetic stiffness instantly destroys the believability of a character. This modern distortion represents a highly concerning industry trend, currently defined as iPhone face. The commercial beauty industry has systematically homogenized female features, creating a rigid, standardized facial template that appears completely jarring and entirely out of place in any historical or realistic cinematic setting. A face altered by modern procedures completely shatters the suspension of disbelief, pulling viewers out of the narrative. This widespread cosmetic dependency has triggered immense frustration among the absolute elite of filmmaking. Legendary directors have publicly stated that the overuse of injectables is actively destroying the fundamental authenticity of modern cinema. They clarified that finding actresses capable of portraying realistic, unenhanced characters has become an incredibly grueling task. The art of storytelling requires human faces that can age, react, and move naturally. One prominent director notoriously expressed deep frustration over actors whose facial mobility was hindered during high-stakes dramatic scenes. She was caught directly in this cold professional trap. The very industry that demanded perpetual youth was now actively rejecting the physical results of that demand, leaving her isolated in a storm of public mockery and career setbacks. Trapped in that relentless cycle of public mockery and career setbacks, the breaking point finally arrived far away from any red carpet. In 2016, she made a highly unexpected television appearance. She traveled into the remote, unforgiving Highlands for an episode of the survival series Running Wild with Bear Grylls. The specific setting was incredibly deliberate. Stripped completely of professional studio lighting, expensive wardrobe teams, and the protective shields of celebrity management, she appeared on camera with her facial muscles still visibly stiff and heavily altered. However, the raw wilderness provided a deeply honest realization. Sitting on a mountainside alongside the host, she initiated one of the most honest, deeply vulnerable conversations ever recorded by a major television star. She explicitly addressed the massive, unspoken issue head-on. She openly detailed the extreme, suffocating pressure placed upon women in the entertainment business to maintain their physical youth at absolutely any cost. Then, she took a highly courageous step forward. She took full personal accountability for her actions. She candidly confessed that her desperate attempt to keep up with the natural aging process pushed her directly into a frantic, toxic race. She stated clearly that she had desperately tried to stop time, but in doing so, she ended up making her situation significantly worse. She acknowledged that the cosmetic procedures she pursued were massive mistakes, confessing that she had essentially fallen into a relentless trap of continuous, misguided medical interventions. She admitted that the constant advice from different doctors created a vicious cycle she could not easily escape. This specific television moment was a massive turning point. The public is notoriously brutal toward celebrities who deny obvious cosmetic work. Yet, people often respect those who openly admit their mistakes. By willingly dropping the defensive facade and showcasing pure, unfiltered vulnerability, she immediately shifted the entire public narrative. She was no longer just a punchline for anonymous internet commentators. She became a relatable, deeply sympathetic woman. Millions of viewers at home instantly recognized her profound struggle. The intense, paralyzing fear of getting older is a universal human experience, and witnessing a legendary global icon admit that she cracked under that exact same pressure was remarkably validating. The survival show ironically became the exact platform where she finally stopped fighting a losing battle against her own biology. Her brave confession did not magically fix the physical changes to her facial structure, but it successfully repaired her fractured connection with the audience. She reclaimed her own life story, proving that true strength is not found in an artificially frozen forehead, but in the rare courage to publicly admit you completely lost your way. Acknowledging the pressure was merely the initial phase of her true acceptance. The actual, permanent solution required a physical dismantling of the cosmetic layers she had slowly built under her own skin. In 2017, she executed a fiercely courageous medical intervention that directly challenged the entire Beverly Hills aesthetic establishment. She returned to the cosmetic clinics, not to purchase another quick fix, but to demand the exact opposite. She later revealed that she chose to have her fillers dissolved, aiming to return to a more natural appearance. This reversal process is a highly intense, deeply vulnerable physical journey. Breaking down years of accumulated heavy injectables means actively destroying the exact protective shield she had desperately relied upon for over a decade. The dissolving enzymes were injected deep into her cheeks, her jawline, and around her mouth, slowly melting away the stiff, unnatural materials that had paralyzed her signature expressions. She was willingly choosing to face the exact truth of aging she had previously spent massive amounts of money trying to escape. The natural, unstoppable progression of human aging. As the excessive volume finally drained away and the chemical swelling subsided, a deep sense of relief followed. Her original, delicate bone structure gradually re-emerged from beneath the heavy synthetic layer. Her signature blue eyes regained their natural, familiar shape, completely freed from the suffocating pressure of the artificial fat. When she finally observed her restored features, she experienced an overwhelming sense of relief. She publicly stated a highly resonant truth. She felt infinitely better because she was finally herself again. The unrecognizable stranger was gone, replaced by a genuine, breathing human being. The most powerful aspect of this great escape was her completely transformed perception of physical flaws. For countless years, the aggressive cosmetic industry successfully conditioned her to view any natural facial crease as a severe defect requiring immediate chemical erasure. However, as her authentic features settled into their natural state, she experienced a massive psychological breakthrough. She bravely recognized that the deep folds forming around her mouth during moments of pure joy were not hideous wrinkles. They were simply smile lines. They were the permanent, beautiful evidence of a life filled with genuine laughter, profound emotion, and real experiences. She actively chose to accept the natural sagging and the inevitable physical shift dictated by time. This courageous choice perfectly aligned with a massive global wave of self-love and healing. She proved to millions of women worldwide that desperately chasing a frozen synthetic version of youth is a toxic, exhausting battle. By completely shattering her frozen look, she successfully reclaimed her freedom, demonstrating that true elegance requires the absolute courage to age naturally. Stepping into the new decade, her professional trajectory experienced a major comeback. Between 2021 and 2026, she completely reclaimed her Hollywood throne. She returned to her legendary television roots with the highly anticipated Friends, The Reunion, instantly reminding millions of devoted fans why they originally connected with her undeniable talent. She then effortlessly dominated the global box office once again in Scream 6 and secured the complex leading role in the critically acclaimed series Shining Vale. Because her natural facial mobility was fully restored, she could finally deliver the powerful, deeply authentic dramatic performances that audiences had missed for years. During a March 2023 appearance on the Los Angeles podcast, she firmly closed the door on her previous era, openly labeling those past cosmetic interventions as her absolute greatest beauty regret. Her journey toward genuine healing extended far beyond simply repairing her external presence. Behind closed doors, she faced a severe, invisible health struggle. Medical professionals diagnosed her with the MTHFR gene mutation, a genetic condition responsible for causing her years of chronic fatigue and heartbreaking miscarriages. This exact mutation was also directly linked to the rare cancer that tragically took her father. Instead of utilizing clinical needles to paralyze her facial muscles, she now relies on daily methylated vitamin B12 injections to sustain her cellular energy and protect her vital organs. This profound, necessary shift from superficial vanity to crucial biological survival entirely redefined her daily existence. This physical restoration perfectly mirrored the profound peace she finally established within her personal life. Her enduring relationship with Johnny McDade provided an incredibly safe harbor away from the relentless media scrutiny. At a time when she no longer felt comfortable in her own skin, Johnny never asked her to look younger. He simply wanted her to be herself. Supported by this unconditional loyalty, she redirected her massive public platform toward genuine global impact. She proudly stepped up as a dedicated ambassador for OmniPeace, actively funding and building vital music schools for children in Rwanda. She simultaneously dedicated her time and resources to supporting vulnerable ALS patients. She completely stopped obsessing over her own reflection and started actively improving the world around her. Now, standing confidently at 62 years old, she embodies a hard-won comeback over an unforgiving industry. She maintains a fiercely vibrant, highly athletic lifestyle, dedicating her mornings to intense Pilates sessions, heavy gym workouts, and competitive tennis matches. Her modern approach to skincare has evolved into a masterclass in graceful, elegant maintenance. She completely abandoned synthetic materials, choosing instead to stimulate her own natural collagen through benign, scientifically advanced therapies like microcurrent stimulation, clinical microneedling, and clear plus brilliant treatments. She survived the absolute most brutal, unforgiving pressures of fame. She successfully transitioned from a terrified actress fighting the clock into a highly respected, deeply fulfilled comeback queen. Her genuine, entirely unhindered smile serves as a clear reminder that true legacy requires fully embracing the natural progression of life. Attempting to fight the natural laws of biology sometimes only accelerates the ultimate downfall of a beloved icon. That heavy, frozen look could never truly preserve her youth. It simply imprisoned her most genuine emotions and temporarily silenced a brilliant talent. True elegance ultimately requires accepting the inevitable passage of time rather than fiercely running from it. The pursuit of artificial youth always comes with a heavy price, and for some, the emotional cost can last far longer than the procedure itself. What are your thoughts on her transformation and eventual comeback? Tell us in the comments below. If you want to see the cold truth of the entertainment industry, hit the like button and subscribe to The Beauty Curse. We will see you in the next video.